What's up, jackalopes? I'm Hope, and today I'm going to be building my December TBR, and I even have a fancy hat for the occasion. Let's see if I can get it all the way in frame. Oh my god, it's so tall. This thing is so ridiculously tall. I can't get it in frame entirely, but whatever, we're doing our best. Anyway, today I'm going to be playing my Betrayal at the House on the Hill TBR game, which I have been doing the last couple of months. And I'm also participating in the Reindeer Readathon in December, which is hosted by Erik from Breakeven Books, and the announcement video will be linked in the description. I'm on Team Snowflake, which is being led by Hillary from Melted Books, so that will also be linked in the description. But I'm really excited, and my plan is to go ahead and do my TBR game and then see if I can work in my main TBR into my plans for the Reindeer Readathon, so we will see how that goes. First things first though, a quick rundown of my November TBR to see how I did. So these are all of the books I was supposed to read in November along with an ebook. I have In the Woods by Tana French, which was one of my Omen picks for November. It was a specific title I had to add to my TBR. And then I had The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde, which was for a favorite author. Then I had another Omen pick, The Inspector of the Dead by David Morrell. And then the last one, which I had as an ebook, is Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse, which was for a borrowed book that won an award. So of these, I have read about 100 pages of In the Woods, and I'm probably going to DNF it. I'm not loving it. And I also had the ending spoiled for me, which kind of ruins my enjoyment of it. I don't really care to read it all that much anymore. I have read one act of The Importance of Being Earnest, and I think I'll probably finish that. I only have 3 acts left. It took me like 20-30 minutes to read the first one, and I was really loving it. So I'm definitely going to finish this. And then I have read chapter 1 of Inspector of the Dead, and I don't think I'm going to get to that by the end of this month. And last, Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse, I finished, and I loved it, so that was cool. But I failed to complete my November TBR, which means that I'll be taking a punishment for my TBR game for this month, which is not a huge punishment. Basically, my little omen counter is going to go up 1, which means that if I encounter any omens this time around, it's more likely that I will start the haunt, which creates a kind of bigger punishment for the following month. So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully not too terribly, but also I'm going to have a lot more time to read, I think, in December, and it's going to be a much better month. November was rough because it was just stressful with the election happening, and my cat actually died the day before the election, so it's just been, you know, a bit of a time. My older cat, I should add. I think there's gonna be some clips later of my other cat attacking my feet, so, you know, November was just a rough month and I didn't do much reading, but I think that December is going to be better. I'm much more in the mood to read now, and I am looking forward to seeing what I'm going to be reading next month. First things first, I need to move my Omen counter up 1 because I failed to complete my November TBR. Ooh, my whole camera wants to fall over. I've also already chosen my character for this month. Just chose her randomly. So I have Zoe Ingstrom, and her speed is 4. So I'll need to have 4 books on my TBR again this month. And then it looks like last month we left off in the chapel on the upper floor. So we will start there again. So we're starting off in chapel. Very next tile is an upper floor. We'll see if I can get this to focus today. But we got the research laboratory. Yes. Cool. So, put that over here. Which means I'm there, and that has an event, which is a prompt. So, okay. So the first prompt I've got here is a graphic novel or manga. Got a really easy prompt to start with graphic novel or manga, and I've decided to read Spy X Family Volume 2 by Tetsuya Endo. This is a manga that focuses on this spy, codenamed Twilight, who is given an assignment to help prevent a war between his country and an opposing country, and he has to go to the opposing country and try to get access to this guy who's kind of a notorious recluse. And the way that he's got to get access to him is by getting his own child into the prestigious school that this other guy's son attends, because this other guy tends to attend school events. The issue is that Twilight doesn't have a child. He also doesn't have a wife, and the school requires that both parents be present during the interview process. But Twilight has to, on very short notice, get himself a wife and a child so that he can complete his mission. And he does. It works out, but he doesn't know that his wife is an assassin and his child is a telepath, so antics ensue. This series, the first one, is just absolutely delightful. It's very funny, it's very wholesome, and I highly recommend it if you're just looking for something kind of upbeat and you need a laugh, because it's so good. So I think for now, let's keep exploring the upstairs, and next one on the pile is still an upper floor tile. So now, I figured out how to manually focus. It's amazing. So now we have the tower, and I think I'm actually gonna put that over here. It has an event on it. My cat is grabbing my foot. And let's see what this next prompt is. Oh, that's 2 of them. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So this one's the last song you listened to. So I threw a couple of like weirder, more interesting prompts into my prompt list for my TBR Betrayal game a while back, and I hadn't gotten any of them so far, but I'm really excited to have gotten one of them. This was hard to pick something for though. So I got the last song you listened to, and I had to look it up, but apparently the last song I listened to was Not Today by BTS, because I am certain I was hyping myself up for a meeting that I was feeling anxious for, but you know. So I had to pick a song that I felt fit with the vibes of Not Today, or fit with the kind of the themes of it. So I've picked The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Nevo, and I picked this because of the last line in the description. But basically the story follows a woman who is married off to a different region. She arrives and she's kind of this outsider. People don't necessarily like her, and she has very few friends and few resources, and she has to make a name for herself and make her own way in the world. And the last line of the description says, she's a northern daughter in a mage-made summer exile, but she will bend history to her will and bring down her enemies piece by piece. And I don't know why, but that to me really captured the feeling of the opening of Not Today, so we're going with this one. We're really getting a lot of events today, because now we've gotten the organ room. Shit, Elwood, stop. My cat is grabbing my feet. There's a blanket hanging down here. He's grabbing my feet, and it is startling me. So, I'm going to shift this whole thing down because I don't feel like trying to cross the tower right now. Okay, next one. Cover is a randomly generated color. I've got a link here to a site that all it does is randomly generate a color, so let's find out what color I get this month. It's opening on the other side, but the color is yellow. And I got yellow. It really like soft buttery yellow too, and I didn't have anything to match that. I hunted through my shelves for a while, I didn't find anything, but I do have Endless Night by Agatha Christie. It's one of her books that isn't a part of either the Tommy and Tuppence series or the Poirot series or the Miss Marple series. It doesn't fit into those. This is actually more like a spooky house story. Specifically, it's not just a house, but like a whole property, a whole like bit of land that's supposed to be cursed because everyone who has acquired this piece of land has had bad things happen to them. And so a young couple acquires this bit of land and decides to build their dream house on it, and then things start to go wrong. So it's kind of a mystery, kind of a spooky haunted property story, and I'm really excited to read this one. I also think it's going to be a quick read because it's short, and also because I always read through Agatha Christie's writing really quickly, so I'm really excited to be picking this one up. And once more into the breach, or rather once more across the upper floor. I'm throwing things now, y'all. This is going splendidly. Shit. So, last up is the, please Elwood, my toes are not for toys. We have the conservatory, which is again an event, so yet another prompt. And the last one for today, nonfiction. I got nonfiction, and I'm going to be reading Play Like a Feminist by Shira Kress, which is about feminism in the video game industry, which I'm very excited about because I am really interested in game studies. It's something that I want to pursue education-wise and career-wise, so I think that this book will be really helpful for me in kind of getting into the realm of game studies and starting to understand what the field is all about. Also, I just have to mention that I love the little Medusa on the front. It's so cute. So now I need to figure out what I'm going to be reading for the Reindeer Readathon, which I don't think I mentioned before, but it's a full month readathon, so it runs from the 1st to the 31st of December, and there are 9 prompts for it. So I think let's just go down the list and talk about what I'm going to be reading. So the first prompt for the Reindeer Readathon is Dasher, and it's a book with a one-word title, and I've picked Titan Shade by Dan Stout. I know it looks like 2 here, but I promise it's really just a one-word title. But this is an urban fantasy mystery noir kind of book that follows a homicide detective named Carter who gets involved in an investigation in this city where they are quickly running out of oil reserves and so running out of energy, and they're trying to negotiate with this other group called the Squibs, who are like amphibian people, and this is like a really important deal. They really need this for the well-being of the city and the future of the city, and then one of these Squib diplomats is murdered, and so Carter is pulled in to investigate, and it takes him on this whole journey that, I mean, quite obviously ends up involving the city elite, and it's this big deal because he needs to solve it so that they can continue their negotiations and not run out of energy. The next prompt is Dancer, which is a companion novel or a sequel, and I'm going to be using Spy X Family Volume 2 for this one. The third prompt is Prancer, which is a book with a map in it, and I'm going to be reading Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This one I don't know a ton about. I know it's pre-Columbian inspired, and it's a fantasy novel that follows a ship captain named Ziala, who, along with the one passenger on her ship, a man named Serapio, they're traveling to the capital city of Tova, where preparations are underway for a major holiday or ceremony or something, and there's a priest there who is predicting that there will be an eclipse on the same day and that it will mark an unbalancing of the world. And Ziala also suspects that Serapio may not be all that he seems because he seems harmless, and she thinks that that means he's probably a villain. I think that this sounds like an excellent book, and it also does have some really cool maps in it. I chose this one because I love that the end papers are the maps. So this is really pretty map. I think this one's the city of Tova, and then in the front cover there is the Crescent Sea that they are crossing. So I think that those are really gorgeous maps, and I thought that was a really cool way to include them. Next up is Vixen, which has 2 options. You could read a book with a fox on the cover or a book with a strong female lead, although that second option has a slightly lower point value. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything that had a fox on the cover that I haven't already read, and I am trying to mostly read books off of my existing physical TBR because it is quite large. So I've read everything on my shelf that had a fox on the cover. So instead, I have decided to read Burning Roses by S.L. Huang, which is a mixture of European and Chinese folklore, and it follows Red Riding Hood and the Archer, and they're both middle-aged women, and they end up working together when sunbirds start attacking the countryside, and they go on this big quest together. So I thought that that sounded like a book that would 100% have some strong female leads, and also just sounds really cool and interesting. This was recommended to me on the basis that I enjoyed Zen Cho's The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water. So just the fact that somebody was like, if you liked this, read this, makes me really want to read this, so I'm excited to pick this one up too. It's also quite short, which I think works to my advantage because I am trying to read a lot in December. The next prompt is the prompt with the highest point value. It's Comet, which is to read a book that is intimidating. I've decided to go with Macbeth by Shakespeare. I know that a lot of people will pick like books that are quite large or quite dense, but for me, Shakespeare is really intimidating. I struggle a lot with understanding his writing. I've read a few of his plays, and I particularly like Hamlet. I've also read The Merchant of Venice, Romeo and Juliet, and I feel like there's one more that I'm forgetting, but like I've read a handful of them, and I tend to enjoy them when I do read them, but I'm really intimidated because I just really struggle to understand what's going on. I think what I'm probably going to end up doing is looking to see if my library has an audiobook so I can listen along while I'm reading, because I found that with things like this, particularly with Shakespeare, but with other kind of classics and things with dense writing or unusual phrasing, it's a lot easier for me to understand if I can hear it said out loud. I don't know why that is, but it helps. Next is Cupid, which is to read a genre that you love, and for this I'm using Endless Night by Agatha Christie because it's a mystery and it's also a spooky property story, and I really like both of those things. So there we go. Then there is Donner, which is a book with something hidden inside, and I'm going to be reading The Angel of the Crows by Catherine Addison. This, along with Black Sun, may be the two on this list that I am the most excited to read, because this one is a Sherlock Holmes retelling set in Victorian London, except it's kind of an urban fantasy Sherlock Holmes retelling, because there's like vampires and demons and angels and fallen angels and hellhounds and all kinds of things like that. And the Watson stand-in, Dr. Doyle, befriends and works with an angel named Crow. So I'm extremely excited to read this one. My best friend read this and said that it follows the kind of format of the original canon with lots of shorter cases that they're trying to solve. So that just makes me even more excited to read it. And the thing that is hidden inside in this book, if I can find one, it's at the chapter headings. There are these cute little like arch decorations on every one of the chapter headings. Also, just the fact that it has chapter headings makes me happy. The penultimate prompt is Blissin, a book that features a struggle of some kind. Is that correct? Yes, Blissin is correct. And I'm going to be reading A Court of Winks and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. This is the third book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, which I started on a whim earlier this year, just completely out of curiosity, and I ended up liking them a lot more than I anticipated. I've been meaning to get to this one for a while. I think I read A Court of Mist and Fury in September. I wanted to read this one in November so that I could read the companion novel that is set after this one in December, because it is set around winter solstice, but that obviously hasn't happened because it's actually today's Thanksgiving and I haven't read this one yet, and it's 700 pages, so I think I'm unlikely to get to it before November ends, especially because I'm actually currently reading The Bear and the Nightingale. Anyway, I'm going to be reading this because I'm pretty sure it features a war. And the final prompt is Rudolph, a book with a outsider or misfit main character, and I'm going to use The Empress of Salt and Fortune for this, since the Empress is arriving in a new region and has to, you know, find a place for herself because she is an outsider there. And that's it. That is all of the books that I'm hoping to read in December. It's a really long list. It's much longer of a list than I would normally make for myself, but I think that I'm gonna have some more time. I have some more days off in December because of the holidays. I just think that I'll have more time to read, and I'm actually in the mood to read again. I have been really enjoying reading the last few days. I did manage to finish Trail of Lightning recently. I'm now reading The Bear and the Nightingale, so I think that there is a much better chance that I can finish probably a significant chunk of these, just since some of them are so short. So I'm very much looking forward to diving into my December TBR. But that is all I have for you today, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. If you have any thoughts on any of these books, please leave those in the comments. I'd love to chat with you about them. You can also connect with me on social media. I'm on Goodreads and Twitter, and those links will be in the description. And thanks again for watching. I hope to see you in the next video, and stay safe. Have a great holiday season. Bye.